I think we are now live. It's another Wednesday night conversations with Cougars, and I've got one of my protectors from back in the day, number 74, Patrick Fitch. How you doing, Pat?
Hi, my name is Ahmed Fitch. Nice to meet you. Or I'm sorry, Little
Funny. And for those of you who don't know who Ahmed Fitch is, that's Patrick's older brother. And I think they're one of the few brother tandems, if you will, or brothers who played for Northview and both have state championship rings. There may be other family members besides the Fitch family, but they're the two. That's the one family I can think of right now that both have them. So that's a cool distinction. But Pat was a year behind me at Northview, and then a year behind me at Vanderbilt. And so we got a lot of good stuff to get into. But before we go back to when you were working at Wendy's and all that good time, Pat, tell folks a little bit about yourself now and your family and what you're doing these days.
Well, the first thing, the most important thing is I'm in Atlanta, but I'm actually at Ahmed's house on purpose. I'm in his office. This is his helmet. This is their caricature of 81, his strip of Legion Field. There's no way I tell my story without including him and thanking him for leaving a blueprint for me in our home, in the classroom, and especially on the football field. Two other quick things before I get into where I am. I found my jacket, my practice jersey, and all that. I found.
Let's see them.
Well, this is my favorite kind of hour thing. This is that Tuesday to Birmingham. We put this. The most important thing I found, though, is this.
Oh, wow. Look at that. This is one of those shirts in a long time.
The most important thing of everything I have, because this represents a lot, and we'll get into it. But here in Atlanta, that's going to change kind of depending upon COVID, but I've gone from 25 years of recruiting, and now I'm shifting to the nonprofit space, started Feeding Caribbean, the equivalent to our Feeding America, the network manager for, say, your Birmingham Food Bank, my Atlanta Food Bank, our Nashville Second Harvest Food Bank. So going into our U.S. Virgin Islands, putting a network in place, going to establish a food bank, and then go throughout the Caribbean region. So going from recruiting to joining the fight against hunger. I've had a chance to be a lot of places since Dothan, and even since we were in Nashville. The best place I've been in the world is Tokyo, Japan. That's where I met my wife, and November will be 9 years of being married. Ahmed and I are both here in Atlanta. Our parents are here in Atlanta. So, you know, the Fitch family is pretty much here now. For my dad, I have to do 3 shout outs. My dad's favorite football player, Butch Henderson. My dad's favorite Northview basketball player, Terrence Ratman Gibson. My dad's favorite Young America, but wound up at Dothan High, Joseph McNeil. Those are my 3 brothers by my father, and I promised Dad I would say hello to them.
Awesome.
Yeah. So shifting careers, going to shift locations eventually. Another transition in my life, and we're excited about it.
Awesome. That's so great that you're doing well, and the Fitch family is united in Atlanta, at least for now. I should have asked for Ahmed and you to come on at the same time. That would have been
funny.
We'd have blown up the internet if we'd have done that. Yeah. We'll get Ahmed another time.
Definitely.
But guys, if you followed the program back in the early to mid 80s, Ahmed was a few years older than Pat, I think 4 years.
Exactly 4.
And then Pat was 1 year behind me, class of 87. And he was one of the tackle anchors of our state championship team in 85. And the fun thing that I like to say is, at least looking back, is I think I outweighed both of my tackles at quarterback that I did that year with Chris Lee on my blind side, the left tackle in the mid 160s, soaking wet with a 5-pound weight in his pocket, and Pat maybe 10 pounds heavier on the right side.
Yeah. I think we were 165 and 175.
That's right. But it's what you guys may have lacked in size and in volume, you certainly made up for in athleticism, quickness, humility, strength, perseverance, etc. Because guys, right before the season, and that's spring going into the summer, we changed offenses. I was so adept at running the wishbone and that type of attack. Coach Parrish felt we would do. We had no choice but to start throwing the ball. So we borrowed the run and shoot, and it changed everybody's approach on offense, particularly for the linemen, because it was just a whole different scheme. And the fact that you guys picked it up as quickly as you did, we had so few sacks throughout the year. The ball was thrown pretty quickly each time, so it was just a whole different mindset. But to have two athletic tackles on either side was such a great advantage, and it just helped out in so many ways because we had Lawrence on the corner, we had LaRue up the middle, Isaac, all of those guys just making plays, and the tackles really just had to be on alert. They had to have their heads on a swivel at all times. And Pat, let me ask you, I don't know if this was Ahmed's influence, but what put you ultimately on the line? How is it that you ended up playing there?
Everything at Northview literally is following his blueprint. And one thing about my journey, and you referenced it, I share something with Clark Lopez. I share something with Mark Saffold. We're legacies. When we come to Northview, our experience is different from everyone else because, especially in my case, I saw Ahmed do the whole 4 years up close and personal. I saw him go from the Dust Bowl to, I saw his whole journey. While I'm there, so did Mark Saffold and so did Clark Lopez, because you're there with your brother. Everything's laid out for you, and literally the position, the number, it's all laid out in advance. So unless you really want to deviate, for me, it was just staying the course and having Ahmed's influence the first 14 years of my life, and then he goes to college. But the last 4 years, which we will get to, he left the blueprint. And, for me, my Northview hero is in my house. Now, we can back up to we were born in New York. We moved to Dothan. My father's from New York. My mother's from Gordon, Alabama. So right before I start first grade, we moved to Dothan. Johnson Holmes, first two people I meet, the late Tony Thompson, the very much alive Teapot. First two people I meet in Dothan. We're there for a year, and then we moved to Young America. And to me, Young America is the greatest neighborhood in Dothan. I grew up there. But before Young America, I've got to touch on a couple of things. Lincoln Center is a landmark in Dothan in my community. Things happened at Lincoln Center first before we get to our Walton Park in Young America, okay? Legends in basketball, Irvin, Oop, and all of them, that's Lincoln Center. And that's, again, 4 wards, and that's the spot. Also, a shout out to Johnny Potter and the Bulldogs. My first memory of real football is Ahmed on the Bulldogs, Frankie Thomas on the Bulldogs, etc. So that yields a lot of the talent in Dothan right before Northview comes along. So a lot of exposure to Dothan's giants as far as high school athletes go, and a lot of them are in my neighborhood. East Highland, Stringer Street's valuable. I meet Aristotle Kirkland, Derek Flowers, and Dothan High's, at the time, Jacob Turnip seated Stringer Street. Wilson Street here's the Northview crowd for a couple of years in elementary school, but not going to see them again till Northview. Then middle school, Beverly, I go to Dothan High School's feeding school. So there's a lot of magic in kind of what's going on in my neighborhood, what's going on in our city, and following in Ahmed's footsteps along the way. Just kind of an overview of some things I wanted to make sure I threw in.
So let me ask you this: with Ahmed kind of putting out the blueprint 4 years ahead of you, do
Mhm.
you think that created back in the day added pressure for you, or did it ease your transition into high school?
Both.
Mhm.
Ahmed, is the oldest, big brother, etc. So I have these great expectations, not really pressure, but just whatever he left, I inherit, and it's mine. I can proudly say mine to lose. So no pressure because remember, unlike most, I'm at his practices. I can still name a lot of his team members from this. Okay, I meet our coaches before. I know our coaches. They know me, Little Ahmed. I'm acclimated to Northview. It's in my neighborhood. I'm acclimated to our football program. Um, so not a lot of pressure because his blueprint was so easy to follow, maybe. I
Mhm.
mean, literally, we share the same bedroom when
Yeah.
we're growing up. We have two dressers. Ninth grade through 12th grade, Ahmed redecorates our room with trophies and Northview paraphernalia,
Mhm.
etc. So, I already know a lot. I know, and we'll get into the high school part, but I know the most important trophy is Super Ironman before I start playing at North.
Do
Okay.
you, do
Little
you
things like
remember?
that.
Do you remember what the how to earn the Super Ironman trophy?
It's what prepares us every day to go to work every day and be on time every day. You are at every practice. And the difference, I believe, if I remember, between super and iron was maybe iron, you got hurt, but you were still there. But I knew the value of that before I even got to North because he says, out of all these trophies, this one means the most to me. Go ahead.
Pat, we got a bunch of folks in here, but I want to hear in the comments which of you earned Super Ironman awards during your time as a Cougar. And let me run through this list. We got a bunch of folks. Number 63 is showing you some love. Chris Lee, Matt Blevins, Ross Morris, Jason Mullins, Patrick. Ross says Patrick is an awesome man and an all-time great Cougar. Proud to call him friend. Chris Lee says hog power. Coach Cleveland, Rick Cleveland.
Oh,
Um, Miss C says to tell you hello and good evening.
thank you, Miss C.
Coach Cleveland says to tell you hello. He's like family.
I
Uh,
am
Hollywood Henderson says, my brother Patrick, tell your pops I said hello.
good.
Charles Brunson, Cece says hello. Let's see who else is in here. Woo Woo says get off his lawn. So
Well, tell my very first football coach, I appreciate that because Jonathan Woo Parker in our front yard, a house on the hill in Young America, was my coach, and Ahmed was Chris's coach. And there's 3-on-3 football in my front yard. So remembering, when they moved to Young America, um, Ahmed, Ahmed's best friend is Jonathan Woo Park. That's Ahmed's best friend with Mickey Saffold right there and Bruce Johnson. I mean, you
such
know,
talent, such
oh,
athleticism on Young America.
Young
Wow.
America, Bamadale,
Mhm.
wow. Even to be at Beverly those 3 years, Young America in Lakeview at one middle school and all that talent I went to middle school with was amazing. But I want to make sure a good time to say first, to me, Northview football is Coach Harry Wayne Parent. I can't say enough good things about our head coach. The biggest compliment I can give him is he ran a program. He didn't coach a team. We were a program. Best example, when we meet Dothan High every year, they're always playing for city championship. We always played for a state championship. We were a program. When I look at Coach Belichick, when I look at Coach Popovich, when I look at Coach Saban, late Pat Summit, Coach K at Duke, that's who coached us. He built a program, and we were blessed. I'm so glad I played under Coach Parrish on our advocate on the field, but for me, an advocate off the field just as much. So I can't say enough good things about Coach Parrish. I was a member of Coach Cleveland's family. all of our coaches. I can honestly say we didn't get out coached. You know, it was just on us to whether or not we were going to stick to the plan.
No, I agree with you, and I do want to make sure we give a belated happy birthday to Coach
Coach
Barrett. I
Barrett.
know a bunch of folks gave him a shout out earlier in the week. Hope he's doing well. Pat, this may be a silly question, but I have to ask it. You've always been a very cerebral guy, very good in the books, of course. Did you ever, in middle school or high school, ever get teased or made fun of for being such academic oriented, even though you played football?
Never in middle school. We're in a pod system. There's no way you stick out. High school, there's separation if you take honors and AP classes. There's separation from, you know, the general students, but never, because even in middle school, quiet as it's kept, Aristotle Kirkland was always the smartest in middle school amongst those of us who competed. At Beverly, it's me and Sam Greenfield. At Aristotle, at Honeysuckle, it's Aristotle and Cookie. I can't remember Carver, James Easley, but just there was competition about grades, and I'm happy to say Aristotle has beaten me all but one.
Hold on, you want Pat? You're on mute, bud. Hold on. All right, you're off.
Am I back?
Yeah. The last thing we heard you say is you're off mute.
Time out.
Okay. Oh, we can hear you just fine, bud. That's all right. It's the way the internet. While Pat's getting reset, guys, I want to mention a couple of things real quick while we have a real quick pause. I want to wish a happy birthday to Willie Banks, who's currently recovering, getting over COVID. Hope he's doing well. Talked to him this morning. On LinkedIn, Rick Cazenave has created, and I posted this in the group, an alumni network resource. And try to find it. He will send you an invite if he hasn't already. But hopefully this picks up, and we're going to get to this later in the talk, but hopefully this picks up to the mentoring and internship and potential job opportunities that I referenced a few weeks ago. So I really appreciate Rick picking up the ball and running with that part of it. But let's go back, Pat. The last thing that you were saying is Aristotle beat you academically except for one time, I think. The question was about, were you ever teased or made fun of for being academic oriented and being a ball player?
No.
Well, I will say this, the junior and senior classes, the classes of 86 and 87 were pretty academic oriented. We had some real brain power in those two senior classes. And if you look at what they've gone on to do, gosh, we've got doctors, lawyers, we've got heads of businesses, we've got trust account heads, we've got all kind of just folks who've done so many wonderful things. There's so many great people in not just those two groups, but that's why I came with the idea of this mentorship, internship, and job opportunities, hopefully, as a side project within this. But Pat, let's go back to you starting ninth grade. You've been over to Northview a whole bunch following Ahmed. So it probably wasn't as overwhelming, if you will, as most of us who didn't have older siblings or family over there from a physical facilities. You know, it's a huge campus, of course. But what were some of your early memories about starting ninth grade and getting acclimated to high school?
I went to summer school before I started ninth grade. Coach Tribute is my Alabama history summer school teacher. So I'm already on campus that summer. I just remember this first time I met Harry Stanley, big brother Harry, whose birthday is in a couple of days. Happy birthday, Harry. But I already know Coach Tribute. There's a switch up because I met Coach Kirkland during Ahmed's days. So Coach Cleveland has arrived. And ninth grade is really a couple of things. We've got to learn how to get along, literally. Because for the last 2 years, we've gone to 4 different middle schools and we don't like each other. I'm not a fan of Mike Henry. He went to Carver. Aristotle and I are friends from 3rd grade, but he's at Honeysuckle. O'Shawn Legree is my best friend for, 40 years, but he's over at Girard with Tommy Ray Davis and Terrence Kelly. So we're divided when we arrive in that Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
We got to become Northview. And also a couple of things Ahmed puts into play is the Dust Bowl is symbolic. You're starting here to get up there, okay? He also points out to me, what you're starting with, only 25% or less will be there with you your senior year.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just out here because they're able to come and be out here. So I already know that. I know I need to just learn. I'm not there to start and all that stuff. Don't, he told, survive ninth grade. Don't quit football ninth grade. And just, that was ninth grade on the football field.
You're so right about that 25%. My graduating class, I think we had 17. When you look at the ninth grade picture, I don't remember the number, but it may have been close to 90 ninth graders.
50, 60 people, but our class too, literally throughout those 4 years, I think we might have been a couple more people than you all.
Yeah.
No more than 20 seniors probably in my class. So ninth grade's vetting, filtering out, trying people at different positions. 10 people want to play quarterback. David Alberson is our quarterback, but then David transfers after ninth grade to another school. But just, I had the perspective of what I see now today, including myself, won't be next year and it won't be the next 3. So I already know that ninth grade.
Let's stay off the field now for a few minutes. I've known you for many, many years, and you were very close and are very close with my middle brother, Rob. And from a social standpoint, from an academic standpoint, you seem to thrive in those areas as much as you thrived in the athletic. You were able to just meld or mold yourself into whichever of those societies, if you will, those parts of your world, and you seem to enjoy each of them equally. Probably not the Dust Bowl time or practice nearly as much, but what was it about, not on the field, not being part of the program, but what was it about our school, about Northview, that you really enjoyed?
I would say, of course, everything really, looking back now. I got a chance to go to the new middle school, Beverly. So now I'm going to the new high school, Northview. I always knew as long as I lived in Young America, I was going to Northview. I'm able to walk to school now. Every other experience is the bus. So finally I'm off the bus to Beverly and I'm walking with everyone in Young America to school together every day. I'm blessed that ninth grade football leads to basketball stats, and that's where Coach Cleveland comes in. A compliment to Coach Cleveland. I was a part of his family. Mrs. Cleveland was my ninth grade English teacher. So during ninth grade, off the football field, I become a part of the basketball program. That is all 4 years. I start keeping the books. In the classroom, I already took Alabama history and the other requirement. So really, freshman year is just reconciliation with the people you went to Wilson Street with for me. And even with classes, again, Ahmed's blueprint, I knew I was never going to be in Mr. Helms' class. I knew I was never going to be in Miss Cotton's class. I knew this, not anything against them, but just I took the same classes Ahmed took. I had the same teachers. I was, again, little Ahmed in every class I arrived in up until senior year. Miss Hooks won that opera, blah, blah, blah. I finish it. She says, good job, Ahmed. And then she catches herself. So I'm him until I leave Dothan. I'm in his shadow. And I met, again, Clark Lopez I knew before. Social wasn't hard because of the elementary school, the middle school, and Young America was always on a get us out of our neighborhood plan. So that's how we wound up at Beverly and not Carver, for example. So just, I guess through Ahmed's friends, other little brothers, my neighborhood, the social part was never an issue for me. managing it, but having it, no.
Well, and I'm so glad you say that about walking to school with the neighborhood and just all of the off the field, away from sports memories that you have. But now I want to take it back onto the field. How did you end up at tackle, playing on the line? What was it about the position that you enjoyed? What was it that you didn't enjoy? And I'm sure there's a lot of both of those, but not all of us get to play in the trenches. Not all of us want to play down there, but you seem to really have a knack for it and enjoy the certain aspects of it.
I watched him play lineman. I never thought once about anything else but offensive lineman. Had some things gone differently between junior and senior year. I was Ahmed, his senior year, offensive line and defensive line. Literally, one team runs off, he's the only one standing there, and then the other, comes in. Had some things went differently. That was on my mind, senior year, but little things along the way, just I understand sophomore year, Ahmed tells me the most important thing for you sophomore year is Monday night football. That's where you're going to get better, that JV experience. So, again, Bernard, a lot of things are set in stone, and I never thought twice, he's an offensive lineman, I'm going to be one too. We're going to keep that, same number. What did I love about it? Sophomore year is different. You arrive on that team. Coach Parrish is my position coach. Coach Parrish's favorite position on the field is offensive line. Okay. We determine how soon practice starts. If we run over to the sled in the passing block, give them energy and effort, let's start practice. Should we not have energy and effort, because he refuses to coach that. He'll coach everything but energy and effort. Y'all are going to be doing drills a long time in positions, because we're not going to stop until we give him what he needs. So to have him, to get to know him as my position coach sophomore year was great. The one thing I did not like, you asked me, Ahmed warns me about the Saturday morning Coach Harry Wayne Parrish show. And he warns me, okay, you're going to be in the room with the offense. Coach Parrish is going to be sitting a cup in one hand and this thing in the other. I don't care what Nathaniel Frazier and Comcast said Friday night during that game. This is the Coach Parrish show. You do not want to be a celebrity on this show, as you and I know. Yeah. You hope, for me, okay, I'm a lineman, right? I better not ever be caught standing watching the game or the play. I better be putting a bonnet on somebody until that whistle's blown. And again, I know these things from my brother. So only once in, I'd say, junior, senior year, when I'm playing a lot, did I get Coach Parrish's toilet bowl award. And I never forget sitting there. You're in the same room that Saturday morning. We played somebody, and literally, I am standing. Again, if it's on Chris and Dewey's side, that's even. Kevin and I are like, are odd, so not our side. Oh, wait a minute. You are a lineman. I do better falling on the ground than to ever be caught on his film with that clicker standing. I dreaded that more than anything else the whole time, and fortunately kept that in mind when we were playing. So until that whistle's blown, I'll hit anybody, just that was tough.
And guys, what
I gotta say, pushing the sled. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, certainly. It's not as if you're going up against cupcakes. You're going up against the likes of future professional football players, the Leon Letts of the world, the Quentin Riggins of the world. Guys, these are Saturday SEC players who turn out to be Sunday NFL players, and these are men in high school. And just to keep them out of the backfield for long enough would get you off of the Saturday roast. But I want to also welcome Coach Hicks has joined us, JJ Joseph Johnson, Oh gosh. Oh, Sean, it's so early in the morning. Thank you, bud, for getting up, and he's watching us. Let's see. That's who's rolled. Oh, John David Edwards has rolled in. So a bunch of folks have rolled in. Pat, let's take it to on the field. You're playing now in games. You're representing the school. You're representing your family. Number 74 is still out there making plays. What's going through your head? When you finally have allowed your heart rate to lower, your blood pressure, everything to just slow down. And if you could, what was that like for you?
The very first game I'm starting is the very first game of our junior year. Prior to that, I didn't get much playing time at all our sophomore year until when everyone else gets to come in at a certain point in the game.
But this is the lead game of my senior year, your junior year. This is the Hurricane game that got pushed to Monday of Labor Day. Yes. So that's the first game you start at right tackle.
I'm fortunate enough to know, and I give Ahmed credit, the biggest honor you get from your team is if you're nominated for captain and you're on the front line. 10 of us, remember, leading stretches on the field, and then 4 of us are going to fulfill the captain duties. Mm-hmm. I wound up in that top 10 that first game, and thank the good Lord, 2 of the best people I've ever met in my life. Happy birthday again, Willie Banks and Chris Holmes. Though they're on each side of me, and they're both saying, breathe. I know you can hear your heart in your ears. Stretch, just on both sides of me, those 2. And again, 2 of the finest individuals I've met in my life. And you would agree with me.
Wow. Oh, Pat, as seniors, those guys were experienced leaders.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
That game, like every other game, until you have that first contact with the other team, the butterflies don't go away. After the first contact, it goes away. I don't find out I'm starting. This is important until game time decision. Prior to that, a little earlier, but Chris Lee plays a critical role. I'll stop right here. Spring training, I meet his father before I meet him. I call Chris Rufus now. I'll call him Rufus during this, but I meet Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee asked me if I met his son. Right after that, I meet Chris. His first words is, "You're not taking my position. Let's get Manny on defense." Right after this, I walk maybe 10 steps into Manny. This is spring training before state year. I don't want to play offense. Hurry up and get your act together so I can be on defense. So I have, again, the perfect scenario of being welcomed in, wanted, I'm number 11 on our offense my junior year. I'm literally number 11. Everyone else has had some playing time. Here comes my time. That game, a lot happens. 2 touchdowns, come on. That in itself, good for us now looking back in getting to know ourselves and encountering adversity at the right time. When you look at our season, it goes the way every season is supposed to go. We're supposed to get better game by game by game. We did, okay? But the adversity at the front end was good for us because it defines your team. We don't know who we are. We spent all August with each other. Now, here we go. So that's good. I also learned that game critical. We're our defense. We have a 14 point or less defense our new defensive coaches implement. If you look at our games, they held that throughout it. So, we start off with Lee. We have the injuries. We have the
first series, Lawrence breaks his arm.
Yeah. Okay. Now I've been here before. I was at the game when it happened to David Alford, who was a huge part of this. Okay. And I remember Dickie Lillard ready to go. Our team, their team, we were loaded. They were a bomb. So there are the different teams. But I share all that to say, we go through this adversity with the injuries. We go through the first third of the season with losses, people coming in and out. I watched some of those films. We're fortunate, and I'll say this, defense does win championships. And as you mentioned, Chris Lee and I can attest to later in the story, Mr. Quentin Riggins. But mind you, like you, we're practicing against the #1 defense in the state of Alabama. I'm sorry, we had no one on that other side that year that did not make us better. Manny, Lonnie, Bobby, Ross, Sheffield, somewhere in there, they made us better, and we made them better. Junior year is amazing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say with the two middle starting linebackers being seniors and ultimately scholarship athletes with Cassie Butler and Willie Banks.
Yes.
You can't find a better duo in the state. But things didn't, we didn't start out the way we hoped. We started out 1-3. We get to homecoming, and then that's when we turned it around. Lawrence comes back. Now, along the way, we win 10 out of the last 11 games. The big loss being really a fortunate loss, and unfortunately, it's against our crosstown rival, but it ends up being in our favor. And we've lived through all of these games through different people we've talked to over the last several months. So I want to ask you just some of your impressions, some of your better memories, whether they're on the field or off the field of that season.
Off the field, and it reminds me a lot of the other team, the 81 team. We were supermen in after fifth period. As you walk down to the gym, we go in that locker room, our phone booth. And when you leave that locker room and you go out on that field, it is business. That's what you all brought me into junior year. This is business. Your senior class, kudos on leadership by position, by everything. Your class is phenomenal. My class complements your class. We've got the makings for winning. The game that did it for me was Foley. Lawrence coming back meant one thing. Coach Parrish could turn to the 10 of us and say, there are no excuses. Lawrence is out here injured, and Lawrence is performing. Lawrence also, Coach Dawsey, a privilege to play with. Lawrence is the best real-time adjustment in the game person I've ever played with. Him being a coach is no surprise to me. Lawrence, led by example. Lawrence was not verbal, but just, nothing but good things about Lawrence, playing with him, tackle, touchdowns. I know we scored, a lot of memories there. But basically, Foley is my game changer because Foley, again, it's easy to win at home, win on the road. You got to win road games. We go down into mosquito humidity hell, okay?
Oh, it was terrible.
All right. But we learn a lot about ourselves. And the biggest thing we improve, not when Lawrence gets back, but at the Foley game is we understand the value of our offensive huddle. You step up and you do the best thing in the world. You tell everyone to shut up. Because after each play, someone wants to come back to you and say how you should have thrown something or pitched something. So finally, you have to stop the chatter. Yeah. When you do that, the magic to our offense is the huddle, because I know we're going to score a touchdown if you and Coach Parrish can discuss the play and you bring it out. Everyone else, it's a toss-up to, in their anxiousness, do they even remember what Coach Parrish just said?
Yeah, I got to say, there were occasions.
Oh, I know. People would run out there to you, and you'd have to call a timeout because they forgot the play, the clock's ticking. But when our huddle improved, we improved because we become more efficient with bring the play in. And also, you started this in the Foley game. Mm-hmm. The play comes in, you say it, but then you take nothing for granted. You tell the receiver or the running back who's going to get the ball. You reemphasize the play. So we've got that efficiency. And then when we have that, we are who we are, meaning You cannot outrun David Hogan. You cannot outcatch Chris Holmes. You don't know what Lawrence Dawsey's going to do. And LaRue Freeman, I don't care if it's 34, 35, or whatever, LaRue, as we linemen know, will break your back because LaRue's only looking for where is the hole at, and that's where he's going.
Yeah.
Once we get the huddle together, we're at the perfect point of the season, that midpoint, the second 5 games, and we go 4-1. Dothan High is a tough game because we're a program, and Coach Parrish tells us every year he hates blue. Beat Lanier, beat Enterprise, Coach Parrish is happy. Because we're a program, we do things the way programs do it. One game at a time. We don't look ahead. You better not circle them on that Coca-Cola calendar. And even going into Dothan High week, Coach Parrish said the same things junior year and senior year. Don't buy in the hoopla. Don't read the paper. Don't listen to all this stuff. And he tells us this. Unfortunately, it's tough because to them, it's not just a game. They wait all year for one game.
That's the season.
So we unfortunately bite because of the on the field chatter. We're in rip cues and, here it all is. But 2 years in a row, we could have scored 14 points and silenced them. Unfortunately, we just kind of, we didn't remain the program. We didn't treat it like one game at a time. We didn't play our offense or defense. We're playing them. So hard game also because I went to Beverly. Dothan High is a surprise to everyone on that field, but not David Hogan, not Chris Parker, not Frank Flowers, not Rondy Dawsey. We know them. We went to middle school with them. I wish David Hogan could have played defense that night. Mr. Tillman would have not scored a touchdown. I went to Beverly with both of them.
Yeah.
Those two are extremely competitive. So 2 years in a row, that game is that game. It benefited us junior year because of the dynamics. However, people forget we beat Opelika before they lost to Central. We heard on the radio their game. We cheered for them because we wanted them again. We wanted a second shot at them your junior year. So, playing them overtime and all that, I know them. I went to middle school with them. I grew up with them. That's just a tough game because, again, we don't get to hate them like they hate us. We have to stick to what worked for us to win state and not the city.
Well, my junior year, your sophomore year, we beat them late, Dothan High, that is. On a late touchdown. Then the next year they get the revenge of the overtime game. But as it turns out, in our fortune, that put them playing against Central Phoenix City with James Joseph, Bo Peep, who played in the pros, played at Auburn, but he got hurt in their game. So we didn't have to face him when we faced Central Phoenix City at home the next week. But I want to kind of, because we're getting toward the back half of our conversation, and we could talk, guys, Pat and I could talk for hours on this good stuff. But Pat, I want to take you, I want to talk about the championship game. And then I want you to take us into your senior year because you were just a junior that year. A lot of talented guys coming back, but a whole bunch of starters graduated with that class, with my class of 86. So take us to the state game and then take us after that to the next year.
After we beat Lee, we've won the state championship, okay? Because Fairhope is a blur. A kick, we go into overtime. State championship game is the weirdest game of that season for all of us. It starts off with something we were not used to. Again, I respect our defense. Nobody pulls what they were pulling on our defense at the start of the game. So we're all alarmed. But again, Aristotle, the fumble, and then, that year, our offense is great at pass blocking. We understand pocket protection. We understand that we're the king of the 2-minute drill. So cardiac Cougars, again, it goes back to our practice. The only time we give our defensive heck is the 2-minute drill. So the state game's weird because the second half, for the first time that season, we watched the game. We never had that experience of watching the second half.
Yeah, we're up by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then we score again.
The rest of that game was weird. Now, let's go. The only thing about the state championship game I will mention is a little bittersweet because Ahmed wasn't there. And again, that's his moment. That's the duplicate of his junior year. So we both win at our junior year. We both experienced life that after a state championship. We have some changes on our team. Some people are not going to continue on, which again starts freshman year. But with that, my senior year and Ross Morris's senior year changes. It's all about developing, for me, 12 new linemen, or 12 linemen who, because of the year before, we don't build depth that year. We're in overtime. The starters play all the time.
Yeah.
This is new to them.
Mark Smith was a junior, my center. Charles was his backup. Tommy Dixon, Dewey Bland, who didn't come back, and yourself, I think, are the linemen who came back after that.
Well, in short, between junior and senior year, 6 of us meet. 2 defensive linemen, 4 offensive linemen. We're going to be seniors, and we talk about it. And everyone's not coming back. I will always say we were all informed. I remember that conversation. The net is Ross Morris and I both have to go into the same mode of, for me, I go from the 5th lineman to now I'm number 1. Also on offense, boy, do we miss you all senior year. Myself, Raymond, O'Shawn, and Isaac are the only people on offense who have gotten it. Now, our defense is great. 7 of them return. They plug in Derek Ward and the late Bernard Brinkley. So we got Cassie and Willie again. 1 person comes in, but the year after state championship, unless you're a young team that wins it, it is very hard to repeat it.
Yeah.
Especially
in 6A football in Alabama.
Oh my gosh. And we also forget that Dothan High Enterprise and Ozark know us 3 years now, and this 4th year, it's going to show. So it's a different year. I learned how to lead. I have to learn how to lose again. I haven't lost since we played Dothan High. We beat Lanier, finally.
Yeah.
We lose. That hurts. That year was a 50-50 year. It was like my freshman year. We went 4-4. We go 5-5. Great gifts. The greatest gift we gave Coach Parrish was, I believe, we're the first team to go in Base Memorial Stadium and beat a Bill Bacon coach Enterprise Wildcat my senior year. Otherwise, it's a 50-50 ball. We're rebuilding on offense. Our defense is more ready than we are, but, we're a team.
This experience can take you only so far. And
yes.
Even though you guys had some of those cornerstones, there just may not have been enough to be as successful as had hoped. But Pat, after high school, you take what you've learned on and off the field up to Nashville. Yes. I happen to be already up there playing ball. Aristotle is up there for a little while. We've got 4 or 5 other students from Dothan area schools who are up there. And for those of you who don't know, I'll pat Pat on the back a little bit. He ultimately becomes the first African-American SGA president in Vanderbilt's history. And the pride that I know he and his family had in that, I can only take a small sliver of that much pride myself. Not only is Pat from my high school, not only is Pat one of my linemen, but Pat is one of my buddies. And he, and as I said earlier, he and my brother Robert were as thick as thieves. Yeah. And it just filled me with pride that you made those strides. You also pledged an awesome fraternity. And I know you want to give a shout out because so many of the guys who were my teammates and Aristotle's for a while at Vanderbilt were also your, and still are, your fraternity brothers.
Vanderbilt's amazing. Still the 4 of the most amazing years of my life. Huge conversation with my mother in between that summer, literally about, I'll call it a win-loss review. I realized that the political part of me outweighed the football part. That Ozark game, I'll never forget. Your brother walks me off the field. that was it for me. That year took a toll on me, and I've been active in school and politics. So when I go to Vanderbilt, I know. Also, and I do want to point out, Bernard, I learned how to lose in politics too, which is important in high school. I don't win 2 elections. That drives me before I get to Vanderbilt to go after a little bit of, I've learned how to win on a team. Let me learn how to win as an individual. I hit the ground running in Nashville. I live in the same dorm you live in my freshman year. I used you and Chris Maddox to become dorm president. I say I'm from Dothan and I played football, and I say your name, and my freshman football players had already been there. You're no longer Nard, you're Bernie. So that kind of comes into play. But I reference you, football players, my class, and then Chris Maddox cleaned the bleachers at Northview running. I cleaned the floor in Lupton. I told everyone to scoot over. I'm still friends with Chris. I talked to him a week ago. I was like, I'm going to reference you on this.
Awesome.
That starts the political part for 4 years. I learned from my losses in high school. I did. I assumed it was all good. It wasn't. So I make sure at Vanderbilt, I don't lose again. And I don't say that, and I say that in just a humble way, but right time, right place. And I'm going for it, and I'm getting it, freshman senator, et cetera. And then a special day in our lives, the day of the election for student body president. I tell you, win or lose, I gotta be around Robert's, brother, just period. And another great friend of mine, Laura Marbles. So as soon as 5 o'clock comes, I remember you and I walk to your car. We drive to Swanee. Laura drives up from Georgia. The 4 of us are there, kind of waiting for the call. Then we decide to go have dinner at Shenanigans. Robert checks his voicemail. Me, you, and Laura are sitting at the table. He comes back and says, "All hail the chief." And the 4 of us, y'all watched me jump up. I think I ran outside and lost it, but special moment and personal redemption on you learned from high school and you approach this different. You made game time adjustments and you won. And also Young Alumni Trustee comes, which is incredible, pledging Kappa Alpha Psi. I become fraternity brothers with Coach Griffin. I become fraternity brothers with a mentor of mine, Stanley Davis, back in Dothan. Aristotle's already in the fraternity. And now I become connected with you because my fraternity is the football fraternity. So you and I share the same friends and kind of circle while we're there. Marie Hansen, Jeffrey Whitehurst, after us, Maria Norton, Joe Folks, Suzanne Waddell, Lottie Watley, Julia Holman. I mean, for a minute, we were Dothan thick up there, but great 4 years at Vanderbilt.
Let me ask you, Pat, and I hate that we don't have a ton of time.
I know.
After you were elected SGA president, it was only 20 years before that did Vanderbilt have its first African-American scholarship football player. And in 20 years, that's a big jump to me. Historically, Vanderbilt has been largely a Caucasian Southern university, to put it that way. And only in the last 20 years now is it really diversified big time. But when we were in school, there were not that much by way of African-American students there.
257 out of 5,000.
Well, there you go. And I'm sure along the way you had to deal with issues. And I'm not asking you to tell any of those details. What I am asking you is, how did you learn to deal with those issues?
Great question. I learned in Dothan. Ahmed leaves a blueprint, Bernard. Ahmed is beyond Young America. Ahmed has friends all over Dothan. Ahmed sets the pace to, we joke about being born into diversity, dad New York, mom Alabama. Diversity is a part of my life before I leave Dothan. Vanderbilt, when I say this, people don't understand, but you were there. Vanderbilt, to me, is one of the diverse places I've ever been because you take the fact that 95% of that school is wealthy, not rich, out of it. You and I understand there's a difference between Westchester County, Fairfield County, and the Northeast, those Vanderbilt students. There's a difference between anyone from the state of Texas, because Texas is not even in the United States. You know, Texas is Texas. If you came from the West Coast or the Midwest, in the Southeast, you're kind of, I don't know, whatever. And so it's not as simple as looking from the outside in at wealth and race. When you get in that ivory tower, as they call it, and for me especially, I'm prepared because in Dothan, my life was diverse. In Dothan, I'm in the Woodlands as much as I'm in Young America.
Right.
In Dothan, the Bellmead Country Club wasn't the first country club I've been in. I was in a country club in Dothan. I'm prepared for Vanderbilt because diversity is not an issue. So I'm not, what? Also too, I'm there to become president. I'm not going to, I know this before I get there, Bernard. I tell everybody that newcomer, I knew every name of my classmates before I got to college. I'm walking around greeting people by their name the first time I meet them. I knew I wanted to be president. I campaigned, I ran for it, but just, I want to throw in also Elaine Johnson is the Joseph and Kara's mom, the reason I went to Vanderbilt, only school I applied to.
And by the way, guys, if you look at the photos that I posted that Pat sent us, that's who's in one of the pictures.
Elaine Johnson is the reason I went to Vanderbilt. But Bernard, I'm prepared everywhere except the classroom because I skipped out on AP classes and that did. Vanderbilt is an academic school. But again, tons of great memories. Even though we who we are, we're still in the SEC. You know, I still went, you know, so great experience. But the same thing is happening in both places, Bernard, in Dothan and in Nashville. I have a strong village of people around me who just expect me, you know, I think that, especially at home, you know, in Nashville, I have your family behind me. I have the Applefield family behind me. I have Rufus Lee and Bill Lee and Sis Lee and Mary Julia Lee behind me. I have support in Dothan. I have this same support in Nashville. The administration, the professors, everywhere I arrived, it was never, it was always, you can do better. You know, it was always a push. It was never anything less expected. So I stepped into a lot of things at the right time. Vanderbilt was all about diversity when I got there. And I can say to this day, Vanderbilt changed my life. Go ahead.
Saying now we're going to have to pause right here. I could do a part B with Pat another day, but now Vanderbilt really has set the tone, I think, in the South, if not the United States, for diversity. I don't mean to dump on it, but back then when we were in school, it's not nearly what it is today. But Pat, my friend, my buddy, I can't thank you enough for sharing just some incredible life lessons and some great stories. I know there's probably 2 times more people that you need or want to give shout outs to, but I encourage you to get into the show notes, into the comments, because there's a ton of them that are sharing some love for you tonight.
Definitely. Thank you. We knew this would be challenging. I even said when we started, you and I could just talk for hours about this stuff, but I did what I wanted to do, and that's recognize Ahmed because of his impact. And then, you know, remind everyone, when did we stop being champions? When did we stop being winners? I learned at a young age how to win on a team. So did all of us. That's kind of the overall theme. And also, let me do one more thing, Bernard, real quick. A tribute to the late Kenneth Lee McGlon, Roger Mills. I already said Tim Reynolds, Andrew Warnberg, a fellow lineman. Just, you know, wanting to make sure Tony Thompson. When I think about that time in my life and who's no longer with us, that's all the motivation and inspiration I need to keep living and going on the journey I'm on. So I know we're short of time, but you know, again, you and I could keep going.
Yeah, it is, guys. We really can come back maybe later on this fall, pick back up with Pat. But I want to thank everybody. Awesome comments galore down there, sharing some love for you, Pat. Thank you guys for another awesome conversations with Cougars on Wednesday nights, and we'll see you again next Wednesday. Y'all have a safe week.